Here's something I've noticed about money. The people who seem the most financially put together, not just comfortable, but genuinely stable, not stressed about it, rarely got there by doing something clever. There was no single investment that changed everything, no side hustle that blew up overnight, no inheritance that landed at the right moment. What they mostly did was a collection of small, unremarkable things. Things that if you watched them do it, you'd think, that's it? That's the whole strategy? Yeah, that's usually it. The problem is that boring doesn't spread. You don't make a viral post about the time you skipped buying coffee at the airport and transferred that $8 into savings instead. There's no story there, no transformation, no before and after. So instead, the content that reaches us is almost always about big moves. The portfolio that tripled, the founder who sold their startup, the couple who retired at 34 and now live on a sailboat. These stories are interesting. They're also not how most people build financial stability. Most people build it quietly over time through habits that don't photograph well. There's also a real tension worth naming. Looking like you're doing well and actually doing well are often pulling in opposite directions. Not always, but often enough that it's worth thinking about. The car that signals success, the apartment in the right neighborhood, the wardrobe that says you've arrived, all of it costs money. And money spent on signals is money not growing anywhere. This video is about the habits I've built and kept that have made the biggest practical difference in my finances. Not inspirational, not aspirational. Just things that actually work, explained as plainly as I can. Let's go through them. Habit 1. I drive a boring car and plan to keep it a long time. A car is almost always a poor financial object. It loses value from the moment it moves. It costs money to insure, fuel, maintain, and eventually replace. None of that changes based on how nice the car is. In fact, it usually gets worse as the car gets nicer. The habit here isn't just buying used. Plenty of people buy used and still trade up every 3 or 4 years, which mostly just benefits the dealership. The real habit is buying something reliable, keeping it well maintained, and driving it for a long time, 8, 10, 12 years if possible. What makes this work is that once a car is paid off and running well, it becomes almost invisible in your budget. You're no longer making payments, you've got some maintenance costs, but they're predictable and usually far smaller than what monthly financing costs. Meanwhile, someone else is paying $500 a month for a newer version of roughly the same functionality. Real example, I know a couple who drove the same 2 cars for 11 years combined. Not glamorous. One of them had a dent they never fixed. Over that period, they estimated the difference between their approach and the average new car every 4 years cycle saved them somewhere around $40,000, including financing costs and insurance differences. That's not a precise number. It's a rough estimate, but it's directionally right. Practical takeaway: the next time your car is paid off, don't immediately think about what you'll upgrade to. Think about how long you can keep driving it before it stops making sense. Habit 2. I cook most meals, but I'm not militant about it. I want to be careful here because cook at home more is genuinely one of the most repeated pieces of financial advice in existence. The reason it keeps getting repeated is that it works, but I think the way it usually gets framed is wrong. It's not about never eating out. It's not about meal prepping 6 containers of the same thing every Sunday until you resent your own refrigerator. It's about the ratio. Most meals, most weeks come from your kitchen. A few don't. That's fine. The financial difference is significant simply because restaurant and takeout meals carry a markup that compounds when you do it frequently. A dinner out for 2, nothing extravagant, just a normal sit-down place, easily costs 4 to 6 times what that same meal would cost at home. Do that a few times a week and it adds up faster than most people track. The cooking habit that actually sticks is simpler than people make it. A small rotation of meals you genuinely like making, a shopping approach that reduces waste, more on that in a moment, and enough flexibility that eating out doesn't feel like failure. Real example, I have maybe 8 dinners in regular rotation. They're not complicated. A few take under 30 minutes. I've made them enough times that there's no friction. The money I'm not spending on delivery or restaurants goes somewhere more useful. Practical takeaway: figure out 5 to 8 meals you actually enjoy making. That's the whole system. Habit 3, I shop groceries with a list, and I don't shop hungry. This sounds almost insultingly simple, I know. But the grocery store is engineered to extract money from you, and most of us walk into it without any defense at all. The list isn't just about organization, it's about closing the decision loop before you enter the environment that's designed to open it back up. When you know what you came for, the impulse buys have less surface area to stick to. The hungry thing is real. There's fairly solid evidence that food decisions made when you're hungry skew toward more expensive, and less healthy. I'm not going to overclaim the research here, but the practical observation holds up. Don't shop when you're famished. Don't browse when you're bored. A related habit I've added over time, building a grocery week around what's actually on sale and what's already in the kitchen. Not fanatically, I'm not rearranging my life around a sale on chickpeas, but enough that I'm not throwing food away regularly. Food waste is expensive in a way that feels abstract until you actually track it for a month. Practical takeaway: before you shop, spend 2 minutes writing down what you actually need. Do it after eating. These are very small changes that have a real compounding effect on the monthly grocery bill. Habit 4, I've made convenience drinks almost invisible in my spending coffee is the classic example. And I know it's been talked to death, but the principle is broader than coffee. The category I'm thinking about is what I'd call convenience drinks. Anything you buy because you're near a place that sells it and it seems like a small amount. Coffee shop drinks, bottled water, energy drinks from a gas station, smoothies, overpriced juice from an airport, soda at a restaurant where they charge you $4 for something that costs them 12 cents. None of these are enormous individually. The pattern is what costs you. If you're spending $6 to $10 a day on beverages that you didn't plan to buy, that's real money across a year, potentially several $100s or more. The habit isn't deprivation, it's infrastructure. A decent coffee setup at home, a reusable water bottle that actually goes with you, a few minutes of forethought in the morning. These aren't sacrifices, they're small investments in not having money silently drain out of your wallet all day. I still buy coffee out sometimes. I just stopped letting it happen by default. Practical takeaway: track your beverage spending for 2 weeks, just look at it. For most people, the number is higher than they expect, and seeing it once is usually enough to shift the habit. Habit 5. I put friction between myself and online shopping. Online shopping is frictionless by design. That's the entire product. One click, stored payment info, same-day delivery. The whole system is optimized to collapse the distance between wanting something and owning it. That collapse is bad for your bank account. The habit I've built is adding that friction back manually. I don't save payment information on most retail sites. I use a wish list, or sometimes just a note on my phone, and I wait before buying anything that isn't a genuine need. The waiting period I use is usually 48 hours for smaller things and a week or longer for anything significant. What happens during that window is interesting. Often I just forget about it. The wanting was real in the moment, but not particularly durable. Other times I come back and still want it, but now I'm buying it as a decision, not as a reflex. The return shipping habit is also part of this. If something arrives and it's not quite right, I return it even if it's inconvenient. The discomfort of returning something is temporary. The cost of keeping mediocre things you didn't really need is permanent. This isn't about never shopping. It's about buying things you actually wanted after you thought about them, not things that were just easy to click. Practical takeaway: remove your saved payment. Info from at least 2 retail sites. Add that one step back. See what changes. Habit 6. I stopped upgrading my wardrobe on a schedule. There's a pressure, partly cultural, partly algorithmic, to refresh your clothes regularly. New season, new looks, new arrivals in your inbox. Fashion retail is built on the idea that what you currently own isn't quite enough. The habit shift here was mostly about rejecting that framing. Clothes wear out and need replacing. That's real. But replacing things before they wear out just because something newer exists is a choice that costs a lot of money over time. What I do now is buy less, buy things that last longer when possible, and replace items when they're genuinely done, not when they're merely unfashionable. I also pay more attention to cost per wear than sticker price. A $120 jacket I wear twice a week for 4 years has a very different real cost than a $40 jacket I wear 10 times before it falls apart. Lifestyle inflation in clothing is easy to miss because each individual purchase feels reasonable. It's the frequency that accumulates. I should say, this isn't about dressing poorly or looking unkempt. Presentation matters in professional contexts. The habit is about being intentional rather than just responsive to marketing cycles. Practical takeaway. Before buying clothing, ask when the last time you replaced something because it actually wore out. If the honest answer is rarely, you probably have more than enough. Habit 7. I pay myself first before the month can spend that money for me. This one is probably the most foundational habit on this list, and also the one that sounds the most like conventional financial advice. But I want to explain why it actually works because I think the mechanics get glossed over. The reason most people don't save consistently isn't lack of discipline. It's timing. If you save what's left over at the end of the month, there's almost never anything left over. The month fills up. Expenses expand. Unexpected things happen. The leftover is zero. The fix is changing when the money moves. Savings come out first, automatically, right when income arrives. Before you see it in your main account, before it's mentally available to spend. This works because of something fairly straightforward about human behavior. We adapt to whatever we have access to. If your take-home after automatic savings is smaller, your spending adjusts to that, not immediately, and not without some discomfort at first, but it happens. People lived on last year's salary. They can live on slightly less than this month's salary. The amount matters less than the consistency. Starting with 5% or even 3% and automating it is genuinely more effective than planning to save 20% whenever the budget allows, because that moment tends not to arrive. Practical takeaway: set up one automatic transfer on payday, even a small amount. Automate it so it requires active effort to stop it. Habit 8. I delay. Lifestyle upgrades, even when I can technically afford them. There's a lag in my spending that I've maintained somewhat intentionally. When my income goes up, I don't immediately adjust my life to match. I let the gap sit for a while. This isn't permanent denial, it's delay. The distinction matters. When your income rises but your expenses don't follow immediately, something good happens in that gap. The difference goes somewhere useful. It builds a buffer, it pays down debt faster, it funds something you've been saving toward. The lifestyle upgrade still happens eventually, just not reflexively and not immediately. The alternative is what gets called lifestyle inflation or lifestyle creep. As income rises, spending rises proportionally and sometimes faster. Bigger apartment, nicer car, more dining out, more subscriptions, more of everything. The math works out to roughly the same financial anxiety at every income level, which is a dispiriting way to run your life. Delaying isn't always comfortable. There's real social pressure to match your lifestyle to your income bracket, or to perform the one you're trying to reach. That pressure is worth recognizing and then quietly ignoring. The question I ask myself before any significant lifestyle upgrade is, will I regret having waited 6 months if I still want this in 6 months? Almost always, the answer is no. Practical takeaway: when your income increases, wait at least 3 months before letting your fixed expenses increase to match it. Habit 9. I've built a small second income stream that isn't exciting. I want to be honest about this one because build multiple income streams has become such an oversaturated concept that it's almost meaningless. Every video promises that passive income will change your life. Most of those videos are selling something. The realistic version of this habit looks much less dramatic. My second income isn't a business. It's not passive in any meaningful sense. It requires time and effort. It's just a skill I have that some people occasionally pay for. Occasional freelance work, some consulting hours, a few projects a year. The income is irregular, not huge, and not something I depend on. What it does is create a financial buffer that absorbs variance. When an unexpected expense arrives, I have options. I can pick up some extra work. I don't have to raid savings or put something on a card I can't immediately pay off. The habit here is building and maintaining that capability rather than just hoping your primary job covers everything forever. It also means not spending the extra income as fast as it arrives, treating it as irregular and keeping it that way in your budget. For most people, the realistic version of this is something adjacent to skills they already have. Not starting a business from scratch, not drop shipping. Just, is there something I know how to do that someone occasionally might pay me to do? Practical takeaway, identify one skill you have that has some market value. You don't need to monetize it immediately. Just know it's there. Habit 10. I review my recurring charges every few months. Subscriptions are a slow leak. Each one is small. Some of them you actively use and they're worth keeping. Some of them you signed up for during a free trial and never consciously decided to continue. Some of them you used a lot and gradually stopped, but not enough to notice when the charge comes through. The habit is a recurring audit. Every 3 or 4 months, I pull up my bank or card statement and look at everything that recurs. Streaming services, software, gym memberships, apps, delivery subscriptions, storage plans, new subscriptions I forgot I had. For each one, I ask a simple question. Did I use this enough in the last few months to justify it? Most of them, yes. Some of them, clearly not. Those get canceled. The savings from any single cancellation are usually modest. The point is the accumulation and the fact that without this habit, the list quietly grows. Companies know that cancellation friction and forgetfulness are powerful retention tools. The periodic review is just pushing back on that. I also use this review as a moment to check whether my regular bills, phone plan, insurance, utilities are still competitive. Sometimes they're not. A phone call or a quick comparison can occasionally save more than a year of canceled subscriptions. Practical takeaway: put a recurring reminder on your calendar to review all subscriptions. Quarterly is enough. Here's the thing about all of this. None of it creates a visible change in the short term. You don't drive a boring car for 2 years and suddenly feel wealthy. You cook dinner instead of ordering out, and the money just goes somewhere quieter. The habit of paying yourself first doesn't feel like much until you look up one day and there's actually something there. That's the nature of it. Wealth for most ordinary people grows in a way that isn't visible from the outside for a long time. You're not performing stability, Archon, you're building it. And building it looks boring. It looks like the same car in the driveway for years. It looks like bringing lunch to work. It looks like not upgrading your apartment the moment you could technically afford to. None of these habits require you to earn more, invest perfectly, or sacrifice everything that makes life enjoyable. They just require consistency in a handful of places where the default behavior quietly costs a lot.